everyone. My name is Galindo, and I'm from the First Year Experience team, and we are here with the First Year Experience podcast, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Gerson and Nick. How are you all doing today?
Pretty good.
I'm doing good.
And today we have a really special guest. We have Dr. Allison from the UTRGV Counseling Center, and she's actually a counselor at the counseling center. So we're so excited to talk to her about all the services that the counseling center has to offer and more. So how are you doing, Dr. Allison?
I'm really good. I'm excited to be here today and to be able to share a little bit about who we are at the counseling center and the different services we provide to our students.
I guess the first question I really have, and then Nick and Gerson, if you have any other follow-up questions, but the first one I ask is like, how is the counseling center handling the entire working from home and students at home transition that UTRGV has become a part of?
It has been very, I'm sure like y'all have experienced, it's been very interesting. Prior to COVID, we had already begun to implement our telehealth services. So we had a few students that are enrolled at the university, but they're not local. So they were doing online classes, and we wanted to make sure that all of those students were also able to access our resources. So we had started the process. So when COVID came along and we all had to go home, we weren't too unfamiliar with it, but it was definitely a new experience for our students who were used to coming in to see us in person. And then having to learn how to communicate from a distance online, just not having that, in-person contact. But, we've adjusted. What has it been, 6 months already that we're in? And our students have adjusted. We find that they actually get on more frequently. I find that I have much lower no-show rates because we have access to telehealth versus our students who, had to come to campus but had to find transportation or had to take off from work or whatever, the barriers were. Now they can access us from anywhere through their phone. So I think a lot of our students actually like it, but of course there's a lot to be said about that, face-to-face connection. But we're doing well. I've enjoyed it. I look forward to going back someday and getting back to our usual typical structure and our interactions with other counselors as well. But we're making it happen. We're all doing the best we can.
So in regards to you mentioning that more students are actually making the meeting times. Have you seen a larger influx of students since the pandemic hit? I know with COVID-19 and the election year, and there's all these things going on right now, and there's high stress situations this year. Have you seen more students using your services?
At first we weren't getting as many calls. But I also we know that was part of the entire adjustment phase. What are we going to do? What's going to happen now? That uncertainty really, led a lot of people to pull back. So we did have higher no-show rates initially, but this summer, we've had more students participating in our services than we've had in the past. So yes, I would say the majority of our students, we actually updated our intake, our screening assessment, and we added a section for COVID to see how the individual has been impacted, family health, finances, emotional, needs, friendships. So they're able to select those areas of concern as well. So it's not just, I struggle with anxiety, but also COVID, plays into those more intense feelings. But yeah, we've seen an influx. We have, unfortunately, our screening dates are a little further out. So if a student calls us right now, it might be a week or two, sometimes 3 before they get to see us, but we're doing our very best to increase the amount of screenings that we can see to provide the students with the best services. But yeah, we're getting so many calls. We're definitely advertising, and the students are coming, and we're really thankful for that.
I guess my next question, just a really short one, is so you mentioned how students are calling for like setting appointments and seeing what's available. Is that the primary way that students can start looking into getting a counseling appointment? Is it through calling, or is there something else?
That's a really good, that's even changed now with COVID. So pre-COVID, we would encourage the students to come in and make an appointment or to call us at our number. Of course, I'm going to forget it now, but I believe it's 956-665-2574. And that's our Edinburg office. But if you call that number, you can, say, hi, I'm a new client, or I'm a previous client, and I'm interested in scheduling a screening. Now with COVID, we've actually begun to accept appointment requests via email. And the email is counseling@utrgv.edu. So students will go ahead and say, I'm interested in scheduling a screening session, or I want to know more about your your group services. And we have a specific therapist that answers to those emails, but they'll say, here is the information, please call us, or this is what we have available right now as far as screening times go.
Great. Gerson, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to ask, like, our concerns, I think, are heightened right now with COVID, but I think I just wanted to ask about practical stuff that we maybe should keep in mind for our mental health overall, not just right now, but like just students overall.
Yeah, that's been like the number one question that we get when we do, Zoom interviews, is like, how do we take care of ourselves when we're stuck in the same room, essentially the same space 24/7, for a lot of people that are practicing that shelter in place. And I find that too. I have, 5 to 6, sometimes 7 appointments in one day, and I'll go from one meeting to the next and I won't get up. So I've had to be so intentional. One, it's really cold in my room. But two, just to go outside during my lunchtime and sit out and get some sun and fresh air. I like sitting in my garage, and I like to see people driving by. So I'll sit there and just open the garage door and allow myself to thaw out and just breathe, because otherwise it's just nonstop. It's harder to structure is another area of concern. Like, well, I don't have this structure, but it's really hard to implement a new practice, a new structure to your life, because I could literally sit here all day and work, and pre-COVID, I would have a client and I'd walk out and I'd talk to them and I'd see other people. So for myself, I've made it a point to, at lunch, to make sure that I take at least 30 to 45 minutes outside of this space. There are some really cool, I don't know how many of y'all like yoga, but there's a really cool person that I follow. Her name, it's called Yoga with Adrienne, and she has really cool yoga, like 5 to 7, 10-minute sessions that you could practice at your desk. So it's like desk yoga, chair yoga, you name it, and it's quick and easy. So, if you do have a little chunk of time and can't run out, make sure that you try to stretch your body out, encourage yourself to breathe. But all of this is going to require intention. We know what we can do and what we need to do, but it's really doing what's best for yourself. We don't have the opportunity to do face-to-face. And, we, like I said earlier, we're doing the best we can with what we have. Schedule Zoom dates with your friends. So many apps. House Party is another app, that you can play games. They're not board games, but you can play games with your friends. There's FaceTime. Now we can chat via Instagram and Facebook and all of that. So just really putting yourself out there. It's going to be different, but we have to adapt. You know, it's going to be different. If that's what we can get, that's the space that we have to get that connection. We got to do our best to adapt to that and utilize those resources. But in addition to that, we have counseling center groups. So I can definitely talk a little bit more about those services whenever y'all are ready.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, actually, that was actually gonna run into our next question. I think students right now are like just trying to find ways to cope, and I really love that you said do things with intention, because that's kind of like a running a running theme that we've been kind of running through, like doing things with intention, like making the effort, you know, to help yourself, you know, stay healthy and stay mentally healthy. So I guess that would run into the next question. What other services does the office provide? Do they have group services or anything else like that?
Yeah. And I want to tag, you know, piggyback off of what you said about the intention. If we don't take care of ourselves, nobody's going to do that for us, you know. So that's the choice that we have to make for ourselves. I can spout off all sorts of different activities, like, you know, get up. I see all your plants. Get a plant. Talk to your plants. You know, water your plants. I am a plant lady. Yes.
I
You
love
know, so yes. And then it's really cool to watch them grow. And so, I mean, that's something, you know, to maintain or, you know, improve your mental health is something that you can take care of and watch grow. And then if it dies, it's okay. We can go find another plant. But anyway, sorry. Yes, you have to take care of yourself, because if we don't make ourselves a priority, other people aren't going to be able to do that for us. You know, you're the one that pulls yourself out of bed. Yeah, somebody can, you know, come on, let's go. You've got to do this. Get out of bed. You know, you got to go to class, show up. But it's really your like wherewithal within you that gets you out of bed, because there's that, even if it's a little bit of hope or, you know, that self-worth, we're going to maximize whatever we have in there. But okay, so to our groups, I guess I'll go over them. I have a little cheat sheet here of all our groups, because we're rocking and rolling with our groups this semester. So I'll list off the names, and then I'll let you all know specifically about the duration and whether or not it's an open or closed group. And I can describe what an open and closed group is as well. So currently we have our Recovering Your Inner Child group, which is a really special group. All of them are special, but this one focuses on discovering forgotten emotions and developing or nurturing the creativity and wisdom that reflects that of a child. You know, when we think about kids, they're like courageous. They're going to go and explore and experience with no, what's the word? Like no resistance
Fear.
or just fear. Yeah, fear. You know, and I want to say fearless, but that takes so much courage. And so as we grow up, you know, we have all these like societal expectations, family expectations that then start to put our inner child in a box. Okay, you can't be running around. You can't be shouting or singing out at Walmart. But they're so free and they want to do that. But we start learning that, okay, you can't sing in public. You know, there's a time and a place. But eventually it begins to oppress or just put that little part, that creative, excited part of yourself in a box, and we forget to live with excitement and creativity. So this one particularly focuses on trauma and how our inner child is suppressed by trauma. Unfortunately, this is closed. So by closed group, that means that when a student comes in for a screening, as clinicians, we assess their situation and we try to connect them with the best services we have available. Not necessarily, not least restrictive, but the least intensive. So if, you know, we're going to start off by offering groups. If it's a little more intense, then we'll offer brief counseling. And brief counseling usually lasts between 1 and 4 sessions. If it's going to be a little more intensive, then we'll recommend individual counseling, and that can go anywhere between 6+ sessions depending on the student's needs. But again, based on our clinical judgment, you know, and what we know about different needs, we can say, yeah, I think we can hit this and take care of it in 4 sessions. We're going to hit the ground running and address whatever those needs are. Or, hey, we have a group, Recovering Your Inner Child. You know, you've talked about how you've experienced trauma, you have a lot of skills and strengths, but, you know, we want to be able to I guess, strengthen or replenish those skills that we haven't been using effectively. So that's when we pull in the groups, and that would then probably not involve any individual counseling. We also have our Self-Love 101 group. That was a huge hit. We began that group, we started offering it, I believe, in June or July, and it's a 6-week group focusing on developing or fostering self-love, self-worth, self-compassion. So yeah, basically along those lines, improving your self-love. So that was a huge hit this summer, and we're on to our 3rd group. We're about to finish our 2nd one, and this next group on self-love begins October 20th. So if any students are interested in this group, again, it's been a huge hit. The students have loved it. So they're just trying to keep it rolling. Go ahead and call us. I'm sorry, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we'll definitely put your links in our channel. So if they need any other resources, we can actually maybe give them a little, you know, way to connect with you guys.
Yeah. Give us a call and we'll go there. We'll screen you for that group in particular.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the problems with people joining, I mean, like right now with the pandemic, I guess you guys have more people kind of getting more involved with the process, but I think there always has been a stigma about getting like mental health services. And I know a lot of people that got mental health services. I've talked with the counselors before personally, and, you know, going through that process actually kind of helps you, you know, learn a little bit more about yourself, because I think people take it really personal. They take it real personal and they think like, oh, people are going to judge me. But I think when you take a stand from like non-judgment and understanding, it's something that we all need. We need it from somebody, and sometimes people don't give it to you the right way. You mentioned how some people just kind of said, yeah, get up, come on, let's go do it. And you have those people that really care, but then, you know, there's a lot of people that just have their own problems. So I think these groups are kind of like a good idea. I'd be kind of interested in, like, you know, checking it out.
Well, and it's really cool because you realize, so sometimes students like, I don't want to do group. I am that stigma. I don't want people to know I struggle with this. But one of the things I try to tell my students is, you're in a group, and when you're in this group, other people have similar needs, which is really validating that you are not. It normalizes. I'm not the only one that struggles with being kind to myself. You know, I'm not the only one that struggles with taming my inner critic. I'm not the only one. But it's, I'm here with 5, 6, 7, 8 other people that are, you know, similar, not identical, but are in similar situations. And that stigma is very much a part of our culture. Ay, están locos, you know, no, es bien chiflada, or, you know, that's what we hear growing up. But the more you know, the better you do. So the more you know, and the more you expose yourself to people that are willing to show they have mental health needs, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're just like me. It's just that we have tougher moments, you know, at different times. And I'm here to help you through that. I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best to connect you with the right people. But yes, groups I think are fantastic. 2 more groups we have are our DBT skills group, and we just changed the name, and I think it's something more catchy, like engaging. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, this one really focuses on improving your ability to emotionally self-regulate. So learning how to calm yourself down when you're feeling afraid, scared, anxious, worried. So emotionally self-regulating, being able to sit and tolerate distress. So I have social anxiety. This is my first time on, in Zoom. What are people going to think about the way I look? What if my teacher calls on me? You know, being able to sit there and say, it's okay. This is nerve-wracking. Yeah, it's scary. It's your first time, but take a deep breath, and it's going to become normal eventually. We're going to adapt to this and feel a little more comfortable. You know, we might not get rid of the social anxiety, but we can reduce the intensity of it on the spectrum, you know, and learn how to sit with that anxiety and not feel like we're going to go into a panic. Also learning how to be mindful and to communicate effectively with others. So that's a really cool group. That one is on Tuesdays at 3:30. Self-love is also on Tuesdays, but at 3 o'clock. And then our last group, I failed to remember, we have 2 more groups. Second to the last group, A Time to Grieve. This group already began, I think, this week. It's an 8-week group that provides a safe place for healing and remembering loved ones. So loved ones that we lost. This one particularly focuses on the death of a loved one. And the reason they decided to facilitate or offer this one was because of COVID. You know, we lose family members all the time, but we're seeing the impact that it's having at such a rapid rate in just 6 months. You know, how many people we have come in contact, not just friends, but even colleagues who have lost loved ones to COVID. So this is that safe space to be able to process and make sense of, if you can, you know, but try to sit with that grief. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think like, honestly, this whole pandemic that's been going on has been like kind of making us feel almost guilty. I know when I leave the house, I feel guilty. I have like this weird guilt, like I'm like, because I've been traveling. I've been doing some traveling because I'm taking my partner to go visit, you know, their family, and we went to Dallas, and it's just like coming back here, I'm literally telling like my whole family, like, stay away from me right now. I'm telling my mom wants to come over, come to my apartment, see how I am, and I tell her like, no, don't come right now. Like, give me some time for myself to, like, you know, clear out, you know, wait till symptoms show up if they do. I mean, yeah. I personally love, like, use a mask. I need to like stay safe because like, I don't want to say I'm a germaphobe, but I think that's kind of created that kind of like tick. Like every time I'm anywhere, I'm just like, oh, it's Germex. And I just literally put Germex like 2 seconds ago, and I'm going to put it again. Like, and it's creating this kind of like anxiety. So, you know.
Yeah, well, I know personally, but I've heard it from students too, that's saying like, I'll walk by someone and I'll have my mask on, but I'll walk by and I'm like, I'm holding my breath, you know, because I don't want to breathe anything in. And so we'll talk through that, you know, rationally, does that make sense? You know, how much of this is impacting your social functioning? You know, they're out getting their basic needs met. They're trying to reduce the amount of time they spend outside, but how is it impacting you in that moment? You know, one of the things we want to try to prevent is that you're holding your breath or somebody coughs, and then you go into this panic. What if they have it? What if it's on me? And you know, it does escalate. Our thoughts do begin to spiral, and sometimes we do lose control of our thoughts, but also just our physiological responses. We stop, we forget to breathe, we start trembling, you know, we start sweating, we start feeling tense, and then before we know it, we might end up in a panic. And so really kind of goes back to like that DBT skills group. But learning how to regulate yourself and ground yourself, that's part of the mindfulness piece of DBT. Ground yourself in those moments that these are my thoughts, they're not facts. We hear that it can be spread through coughing and sneezing. Yeah, we know that that's been found scientifically. But right now I feel okay, I feel safe, get what you need, go get your Clorox wipes, so having a plan of action, not spiraling into catastrophic thinking. Yeah, I totally get it. I try to avoid leaving as much as I can. And like you know, I'm sure most of us, we come in contact with elderly people or people that have compromised immune systems or other health needs. So we want to be careful and cautious. So yeah, we have that grief group, A Time to Grieve. And then the last group is a mood management group. That group just begun. They started that one this Monday. I'm not exactly sure on the times, and I'll get that to you all so you can provide that as on a link. But that one focuses on mindfulness, managing your anxiety or depression, any symptoms of depression, any difficulty setting boundaries, being able to communicate effectively, just a variety of really valuable skills. And I believe that one is also 5 weeks long. So again, if anybody that's listening to this, if any of these spark your interest, or they sound like something you want to participate in, give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'll try to get you in for a screening as soon as possible and hook you up with one of these really helpful groups. So in addition to that, I can talk and talk. But in addition to that, we have a few self-help resources. So let's say that you're still working. We still have so many of our students working, and my schedule is unpredictable. I'm really busy with all of my classes. I'm also taking care of a family member, whatever the reasons are. If scheduling an appointment for us isn't an option, or maybe you're just not ready to call for a screening, we do have 2 other self-help resources, and one of them is called Thrive at UT. So it's our UTRGV resource. It was originally developed by, oh gosh, I'm not exactly sure, but someone from UT Austin. And now we have this tool as well. But it's free to download. It's a useful resource for mental health wellness. You can download it on, I guess, any like Apple, or what is the other big
Android.
one? Android, yes, yes. So they're available on both app stores. So Thrive at UT, and there are a list, or there are different little tabs or options that you can select, but they'll have local resources, different ideas on mindfulness, grounding, self-care, self-love. So there's a variety of information on there as well that maybe might be all you need for now. And the last one is therapy assisted online. And so we call this TAO. It's self-help. It's a library of behavioral health resources. So it includes interactive modules. I know modules sound kind of like, oh gosh, I've got to complete this, but it's self-paced. You can go, and there are little videos that you can look through and just learn different skills and tips to help you understand and manage how you feel, think, and act. Because if we're feeling some kind of way, we're going to have certain thoughts connected to that feeling that are then going to lead us to behave or to act or to respond in a certain way. So if you can learn how to develop that awareness, that self-awareness and self-reflection are key. If you can develop that and then identify skills that can help you manage those moments, we're hopeful that you'll find some improvement in those distressing times.
I wanted to ask on like what you said about Thrive and the opposite spectrum of that. I know that the counseling center also has a service for the Vaquero crisis line, and we hope that most don't need to use that service. But like, what exactly does that have for students?
So the Vaquero's crisis line is available to all enrolled UTRGV students. It's available 24/7, and it's a confidential line. So we're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. But if you don't want to call the center, or if it's 5:20 and we're no longer available, Vaquero's crisis line is available to you. And just like we're licensed counselors and therapists, we on the other line, when you call 665-5555, there will be a licensed clinician on the other side, on the other end of the line as well, that will help you, whether it's I'm feeling really anxious, I'm in a panic, I'm having thoughts of wanting to hurt myself, of wanting to die. I just got in a fight with my brother or my mother or my aunt, and I feel like I might lose my, my self-control. I am really worried about the fact that I just failed a really important quiz or test online, and now I think I'm going to fail out of college. Whatever the need is, you can call them, and there will be somebody on the line that is able to help you ground yourself and think rationally. Because when we're panicking and we're afraid and we're fearful and we're angry, all we're thinking is survival, and none of our logical way of thinking is intact, you know. And so with someone on the other end of the line being able to talk to you and remind you of where you are, then you know you're not having to try to navigate that by yourself in survival mode. You have somebody guiding you through that. So absolutely, please use that resource. It's there. It's a free resource with clinicians that can help you self-regulate or learn how to self-regulate. So yeah, it's a helpline for any type of emotional crisis.
I definitely get you when you talked about how you're not thinking logically when you have those like kinds of breakdowns. Like it's so hard to, I mean, it's ever been extreme for me, but it's so hard to take a Blackboard exam and you maybe not have made the grade you wanted to, and you automatically go into worst case scenario. You're like,
Yeah.
everything's crumbling. I'm gonna fail. I'm a failure. And like now I look back at it, I'm like, all I had to do was like wait for the next exam, and then it all went okay. So it's so easy to get lost and just
Yeah.
to think so bad of yourself. But for sure, I think
Yeah.
it's a great resource, especially for like students that just need someone to vent to and just like
Mm-hmm.
get it off their chest and just take a breather and just know that nothing is forever. Like everything can be fixed. So
Totally. And I think that's the problem. We don't know how to self-regulate. We keep ourselves under that heat with very unhelpful thinking patterns. I like to use the example of a pot of water, like you're going to boil spaghetti and the water's calm. Maybe you used hot water, so it's a little steamy, but you put it on the range and you turn up the heat and it starts to bubble, you know, then you see little, or it starts to like shake, I guess, I don't know, but it starts to, you know, produce more heat, and then we have the bubbles, and then we have it splashing, and then it's everywhere, you know, and then your range is a mess. But the only way to calm it down is to remove it from the heat, to remove it from the fire. And that's why, I mean, I think we often forget, just walk away, you know, just walk away and take a deep breath. But it's so true. You remove yourself from that trigger, that stressor, the computer, you know, Blackboard, and you go outside and you realize, okay, it's not just me in this room. There's more out there than just me and my computer and this class. And so the more we practice that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard at the beginning, but the more you practice it, the more you're able to say, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be able to fix this. You know, I'm going to reach out to my professor and see what I need to do differently, or what did I miss, or maybe I didn't understand this concept. Whatever it is, there are solutions. But sometimes we need somebody else to talk it out with and to help us come up with useful ideas. But we all have the answers. It's just that we can't always figure them out on our own.
I think as a college student, no matter where you are, you're bound to run into an emotional breakdown, sadly. Like it's just something, even now with COVID, yeah, like that's why every student I run into that's coming into UTRGV or is just, I notice they're having like issues. I'm like, hey, have you taken a look at the counseling center? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like the clinic? And I'm like, no, like the counseling center. Like it's a resource. And they're like, they'll come to me later and be like, thank you so much. Like I called, I set an appointment. I now have something to look forward to. And I'm just like, yeah, like I think this is a resource that so many students either just don't feel the need to look into, or they've just never been told to look into it. And I always want to stress that this department exists and it's so important for, and I'm so happy to hear that it's growing more, that, you know, as students, it's a lesser commitment to actually build up the integrity to get up. Someone struggling with depression might not even want to go to campus and make that initial step to the counseling center physically, but to be doing it over online. We've set this with event coordinators. It's so great because students that would have never had that, even through transportation, would have never had that ability to can now do it remotely. So I'm happy that the counseling center is you said it's growing a lot more, and a lot more students are taking advantage of it now that it's virtual. And I'm so proud of that.
Yes, it's definitely taken some adjustment. I remember my first session through telehealth. I think I made it weird for me and my student. Thankfully, it was somebody that I'd been working with, but I know that I was overthinking, like, is she crying? Is she okay? Like, that body language that we're able to identify in person is just so much harder through a camera. And then I just had to calm myself down and say, hey, you know what? You know this, you know what you're doing, you know how to help people. And if you don't know, if you really don't know, and ask, it's going to be okay to ask, So even us as clinicians, I have a therapist colleague that was like, this is like the first time in life that we've actually experienced, maybe not the first time in life, but our lives, that we've actually experienced a disaster alongside of our students. So we're all going through the same thing, like, oh my gosh, it's so true. We can totally relate on this level. And we've been honest, like we've struggled too. And again, goes back to that intention. I like to exercise. So I'll get up and I'd go to the gym, and I'd wake up at like 4:30 or so, 4:20, and I'd show up at 5. That changed for me. And there was a point in time where I wasn't getting up, and I was like, no, you have to stick to your routine, your regimen. You're going to do it here at home, but you stick to what works for you. It took some time, and we're human. It takes all of us time to adjust. But we gotta keep moving forward, or else we get stuck.
Yeah, I definitely took on plants. As you can see, I have so many plants. I love my plants. I take care of them. Like, I literally am I'm like, they have the crazy cat lady.
You're the plant.
I'm the crazy plant dude.
Plant dude.
I'm a herbologist now. Like, I'm gonna go to their garden and just like take advantage of it or something. That's another. Maybe we could do an interview on that, because
sure.
I think everyone needs to find like that hobby. I think that's probably one of the best ways to cope. I mean, I used to go exercise all the time too. I mean, like lately I haven't, and I've just been letting myself go here at home. But I've been like finding ways. I bought this little press thing where I can like kind of like work out my legs to keep myself active, because I get lazy. And I think like, all these problems with COVID have been like, it's so true. I love that you're saying all these things with intention, and how like we're all going through this same thing during the pandemic. It's something that's shared, and it's just those things that we can talk about, like overeating. I literally have overate just because like I have nothing to do. Like I usually have this space where I'm like doing several things at once. So I'll just work, plant, food, right? I'm doing like work, plant, food. This should be a bumper sticker.
I work, plant, and food. Yes. Well, that overeating has actually been something that we've seen with our student. I've seen it in myself. I'll have my snacks, and I'm like in between sessions eating my snacks, but I'm not as mobile as I used to be. At the counseling center, we're at the student center, and our bathrooms are on second floor and third floor. So I'd go up the stairs, and that was my exercise. I'm just sitting here all day. So I have to make myself get up. But oh my gosh, the snacks have been the worst. So yes, it happens to all of us. I used to have my Hershey's, and I had to leave them on purpose, leave them in the pantry, because I'd have this little stack of like silver wrappers like sitting next to me. And that was, we can all fall victim of the candies or the snacks. But yeah, one of the things too that I've talked to about plants with a student is like, oh, I forget that they're there. I'm so busy that I forget that my plants are there. I forget to water them. Well, we're home with them all the time. So this is the best time to take care of your plants, because you're going to see them. But yeah, I have them everywhere as well. And it does make for brighter space. I did that with my kids. They're doing school from home. I have a 5th grader and a 6th grader. And I put 2 little plants by my daughter's window where her computer's at. And my son's, his computer's facing the wall, but he loves having his window open. And he has 2 little plants by his window as well. That's another really helpful tip. If you have a window in your room or your space, open it up. open it up, because that, I mean, we have gloomy days too, and those make me want to sleep a little, but it really lets you know that there is a world outside of here. The sun's rising and it, you know, it goes down. It's
I'm
still
gonna open my
happening.
window right now.
I see that.
Doubt.
Yes, open your windows. I've noticed that I have like little lizard friends at my windows that
And
just
stray
hang out
cats.
there.
And the stray
Yes.
cats, I see like a tail, like, because I have my window open, that's like right here on the first floor, and like I'll see like a little tail just like pass by, kind of like this, kind of like passing by, little cat pass by, so it's funny.
Yeah.
They're not
You
my
know,
cats. I've literally opened my door and I have a picture, but like I opened my door and there's like 5 cats laying out in front of my apartment. I was like, whose are these?
welcome to my home, a humble abode. You know, I wanted to say, and I totally forgot to mention this, specifically thinking about our freshmen. I haven't had a lot of freshmen come in to onto my caseload, but the change, you know, we think about going to college, and I, you know, reflect on my college life and how exciting that was. I couldn't wait to get out of high school and go to college. And my first year looks nothing like what the TV says, you know, what's on TV, or what my, you know, potentially older friends have said college is like. Have y'all discussed that on any other previous
You know,
podcasts?
surprisingly, we do go over like quite a few topics. We went on one over voting, went over census. We did go over public health. The public health is going to be posted this week, and then next week after editing, I would post yours. Well,
Mhm.
actually, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. This coming Monday's public health, and then yours is the following week, next Monday, the following Monday.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like that's some of the things that we kind of try to direct towards, but we're mostly talking about the resources. And I'm glad that you pointed that out because I think like freshmen coming this year is different, but like it's different in so many dramatic effects like that's going on. So it's just like it's super different
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. I remember thinking like, I can't wait to leave home. I can't wait to be independent, you know, and for a lot of our students, they still stay home, you know, and it's community, but you get that time to leave, that independence to go to class and drive yourself, or, you know, hitch a ride with someone, meet new, make new friends. My son's in junior high. He just started sixth grade, and it's not high, it's not college, but that's exciting. You're supposed to be able to switch classes and meet students from different elementary schools, and it's totally changed, you know. But for college, because this is like adulthood, this is like that whole new level of independence that you're confined right now. You're not able to do that. We have Zooms, but you can't stay after class and chit chat with classmates. Everybody's like, leave, you know, the instant that you get to leave. So you don't have that space to socialize and make new connections. And yeah, it's a challenge, and my hope is that it won't always be like this, you know. Or maybe we need to find a way to have discussions after class, you know. Professors might need to, and I know this is already part, we know that they have group work, and you know, have students work together in groups, so you still have that, but it's still very focused on work, you know. Not like, what did you do this weekend, or hey, I like your backpack, or oh, I really like your hair, or whatever it is that you use to start small talk, you know.
I think we're
um,
gonna I think we're gonna do an episode on some student organizations. That's something that I've been wanting to plan and put around because there's a lot of student orgs that are just doing great things. I mean, one of the ones that I've joined was Google Developer Student Club, and no one even
oh,
knows it existed. Like I didn't even know it existed up until like last year, and it's like someone had organized it. So
how
that's
neat.
one of those resources. And of course, they have like academic fraternities and sororities. They have like, you know, the LGBTQ, you know, organization
Yes.
and different services. I mean, Jerry's mentioned some of these group or organizations kind of get with you guys. Is that
Hmm.
is that something you guys do? You work with
We
like Ally
do. We
or something?
have in the past. We've connected with Ally. We've worked really closely with that own. and diversity, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, and he does lead up a lot of work with LGBTQI plus, with dreamers, with I mean, you name it. Like he works with anything that involves diversity and inclusion. So he'd be really cool to reach out to. He has done incredible stuff over the summer, bringing in people from the community or within the university, talking about, oh gosh, they're called community connections. And we talked about different areas of concern. So we did talk about Black Lives Matter. We talked about race. People came in and talked about it's okay to, my topic was it's okay not to be okay. Some people talked about, parenting. I mean, I'm losing it all, but so many different really cool topics that he hosted from June to mindfulness, from June to July. So yeah, I totally recommend reaching out to him. He's doing great stuff.
I was planning on reaching out to him. I've interviewed him in the past, and just to understand where the department stands now from from being from home, and what efforts are being taken, and what upcoming events that they're doing. For sure, 100% interested in that. And I think first year experience, like our organization, we're doing live events too, and we're trying to bring freshmen together and just like the student body together, just so that we can, do events and just have. We started a Discord, which is like an online messaging board, and so many students have joined and already have started like chatting with each other in specific chat. So though it's not the same, like you said, it's like it's a step towards just being able to do more of that in online. So
but you know what, Jerry, it's also really interesting. So my students, when we have to develop safety plans or identify support groups for, because they're struggling, and they need to be able to remember that they're not alone, and if they do have supports. I have so many students that list their Discord friends. They're not their IRL friends, but they'll say, oh, Cha-Cha, or Buggy, or whatever their names are, and I'm like, that's their Discord name, but they have access to them so much faster than they would a real life friend that they can't go over to their house. They're always on their whatever system, their platform they're using. But yeah, it's super cool.
I have personally made like deep connections with people through the pandemic because like I had nothing else to do. So I made a Discord, and I have like made some really like friends that I made that I was friends with in high school that I never would have talked to. I now have become like really deep friends with because of the pandemic. It kind of forced me to.
I get chills thinking about that. That's so cool.
It's so weird. Yeah. And this generation, I feel, is so like much more susceptible to being like, okay, we're not gonna be in person. That's cool. I'll be online later today, like all day. So it's so interesting.
It definitely has its pros and cons. It's like my mom brain chiming in, but my kiddos have Discord. Very cautious, but they have friends all over the US, and they're like trying to talk about how we're going to meet up. I'm like, yo, wait, it's the pandemic. You're not going to meet anybody nowhere anytime soon. Okay. But they dream about being able to meet each other someday, because they do have very, very unique but very deep connections with each other. So that is a really cool option too, that we have to connect with others. So yeah.
Well, we're creeping up on 11, we're creeping 10. Up on 10. Yeah. Yes. So it was fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and we're going to make sure to plug all of those resources as we upload this podcast the following week after next week, just to make sure that everyone knows about you all, and we're so excited. Thank you so much once again for joining us. And thank you, Nick, and thank you, Gerson, for being our co-host today. And my name is Jerry Galindo, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast.